Morning, Charles Van Morgan. It's the Charles Van Morgan Show. We're broadcasting live in the morning. We got a great show for you today, so come on board. It is the Charles Van Morgan Show. Today we're going to talk about promises made in a church and promises violated. Promises made and lies made by the quote Christian unquote governor. So we're going to talk about that today. How these people in power, mainly the self-proclaimed Christian governor Bill Lee, how he has lied to the public, and how that makes a difference is we don't need to keep making the same mistakes. So Bill Lee made some promises about his Christian faith, using the Christian faith under the Christian banner, made promises specifically in a church building, and proclaimed the Christian faith and promised three things. Walked in a church and literally did a campaign commercial promising on the Christian faith, using the Bible to do three specific things. And let's look and see if what he has done toward the end of his term matches up with what he said, so we don't need to make the same mistakes. We're talking about the present governor, Governor Bill Lee. This is unbridled news. You won't hear this anywhere else. That is why you need to listen, because no one else will run down people in power, will tell you the truth about them, like the Charles Van Morgan Show. So come on in, Charles Van Morgan. Good morning. Got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about lying to the public under a Christian banner. Pretty horrific, if you ask me. We're on our way to the bridge. So the governor made three promises. Governor Bill Lee, the Christian governor, campaigned in a church, using a church, saying, hey, I'm honest. Look, I'm even walking in a church building where they have pews and you can see the pulpit, the Church of God, saying, I'm a Christian. And he made three promises. I wrote them down. You gonna see them? And let's see if he kept his three promises. And they're pretty important promises, because they're great things that he should have done. Ronald 12078, hello. Hello, sir. Please, can you tell me something? I can try. So we're talking about the Christian governor who campaigned inside of a church building. He campaigned to get power, synonymous with money in a church building. Made three promises to the public. I wrote them down. And it's pretty horrific what he's done. And relying on a church building to help him say, I'm honest, look, I have Christian faith and Christian values. But does he? We're going to lay out those three promises that he made, not me. He made them. Let's hold him to his own standard. His own standard, the Christian governor. Now he is dangerous enough, and he's a very dangerous man, to believe his own rhetoric. But I don't believe a word of it. I believe what he said, and then I watch what he does, and it's two different things. So we're going to talk about those three promises that Governor Bill Lee made. Now, there's an election coming up here in just a few days next year for the governor's race. We don't need to make the same mistake. So I'm just going to point out what this Christian nationalism, and there's nothing wrong with being Christian nationalism, but I'm talking about what these people at the top of the Christian nationalism, what they do. They use promises related to the Bible, and then let's see if it matches up. And they believe their own rhetoric because they literally believe that if you stand up against them that if you tell the truth, that you're going against God's will. And, you know, God organized things in truth and honesty with organization. So when these people lie, it shows up. And there's scripture in the Bible that talks about don't bear false witness. And he does that in a church, and he believes his own rhetoric, and he thinks that God's going to judge me because he lied to the public. So come on in, we're going to talk about that today. Like, share, comment, spread this message. You won't hear it anywhere else. Speaking truth to power, and I'm not speaking truth to them. They're in power now in the government. I'm speaking truth to power to the mass populace, because the real power in elections belongs with you, the people. So I'm speaking the truth about people that happen to be in government power right now that can't maintain it with the truth getting out about them, and telling you the truth of why you should not re-elect similar people in the future. So we're going to talk about Governor Bill Lee and his 3 promises that he made and see how that matches up with reality. So he promised us, Tennesseans, and all across the world, look at your politicians and what they say, what they try to associate themselves with, the propaganda that they spit out. And this is really horrific because he used a Christian church to spread a message that he lied about. His three promises that he walked in a church building and did. So he's the one that set the standard. I didn't set the standard. I didn't walk into church and advertise against him. I'm walking out here on a public sidewalk, and what I say is the truth. What he said was lied to you. The 3 things he said, he promised, under the Christian banner, under the Christian faith, was that we should not worry about things that Christians stand against. And there's some values that Christians stand against that a lot of people in the populace are Christian, they don't stand for. He said, don't worry about that. He said, here's what we stand for. Trying to get people that don't even believe in the Christian faith to go along with voting for him anyway. Saying that, hey, don't worry about what we stand against, because the Christian faith stands against a lot of things, and I do too. But then he goes on to say that, hey, we're for everybody. We stand for 3 values, and this is why I want you to vote for me. He said that we stand for the value that's in the Holy Scriptures of loving your neighbor more than yourself. That's just his words. That's not my words. That's his words. Did he hold true to that? Which neighbor? Yeah, we'll tell you which neighbor that he meant, because it certainly wasn't the poor neighbors and the neighbors that he has made poor. And then he said to stand up against oppression and injustice, no matter where we find it, no matter where we find it. Has he done that? What if you find it in your own self? What if you turn the mirror around and look at yourself? Will you find injustice there, Governor? I think so. I'm pretty sure about that you will. So we're on the bridge. We're going to lay this out. In the 3rd promise that he made, said he stood for stuff, was to, the first one was to love your neighbor as yourself, to stand against injustices, and his final promise that he made in a church was to to be honest and forthright with people. So love your neighbor as yourself. To fight injustice, no matter where you find it, and to stand true to your values even when they're not popular. And that's what he said. That's his standard, not mine. That's a standard that he came up with. And let's test that with reality to what Mr. Governor Bill Lee has done. Listen how many people we got on here. So we're at the bridge. Thank y'all so very much for coming. And so those are his three values that Governor Bill Lee said that he had those values, and put that out, and people voted for him based on those Christian principles, those Christian values. So we've had over 1.3 million people that we put out the truth to, and we're speaking the truth to power. And it's not necessarily their power that they got in office, because they're what I'm speaking to is the public, is you all, because you all hold the real power of voting for people. They just happen to be the people in power right now. So when I say I'm speaking truth to power, I'm speaking truth to you all about crooked people in Tennessee power that have gotten there by making promises like those that he did not keep. And we're going to go through those and talk about how Bill Lee has lied to you using a church. You know, Jesus threw people out of the church for buying and selling and making money. Power is synonymous with money. So Bill Lee used the church to make money. And in his mind, he literally believes his own rhetoric. Bill Lee believes, I think, that I'll be judged for speaking out against him. I'm not in a church. I'm on a public sidewalk, following the laws of the state of Tennessee, United States Constitution. He was in a church synonymous with seeking power using the church and lying. Every word he said, he lied. And he used that to manipulate and deceive the church, deceive people to get elected. You won't hear this anywhere else. Now, God's not going to judge me for speaking the truth about Governor Bill Lee. He's a human being, not even a very good one. I don't know his heart, but I know he hasn't done right. He hasn't done you right. He lied to get elected. He's a liar. He's deceitful. He doesn't tell the truth. And I'll point it out and show you. Now, doesn't that sound like somebody else other than Jesus, the opposing side? That Satan, Lucifer, is the father of liars? Maybe he's following the wrong leader. Both of them are leaders. One of them's a leader of love your neighbor as yourself truthfully. One of them deceives people into thinking that you love your neighbor as yourself when only you love only your rich neighbors. So maybe he's following the wrong leader. And I don't know his heart, but I'm telling you, the way he lives, the way he's run our government has been a catastrophe. So here's the beautiful view of the city of Knoxville. So we're going to cover that today. We're going to talk about Governor Bill Lee and his Christian nationalism, his Christian rhetoric, and nothing against the Christian faith. Bill Lee's a man. Don't blame God for what Bill Lee does. Please don't blame God for Bill Lee. If you look at Bill Lee, you won't find God. You won't find even a resemblance of him. If you look at Bill Lee, you'll find a resemblance of Satan, Lucifer. Now, you won't hear that anywhere else. Charles Van Morgan Unbridled in the Morning, because that's the truth. That's the truth. And I really hate to say that. I wish he'd change his ways. He's got a few months to correct things while he's in office, but he won't do it because he believes his own rhetoric. Now, I'm not like that. I get up and I look in the mirror and I talk about these people harshly, truthfully, because they're very seriously damaging the public, and it's important to get the truth out. You don't fight the enemy throwing softballs, they'll knock you out of the park. You don't get in the ring throwing haymakers. You have to land your punches, because the enemy is trying to hurt you. Bill Lee's trying to hurt you. He has done everything in his power while he's been in office to hurt Tennesseans by deceit and lies. That's what I think. He's in power, and he's doing a lot of destructive things. And I got a right as a Tennessean to present the facts as an American with a birth certificate and a card-carrying draft card to tell you the truth about Mr. Bill Lee. He has kept none of his promises and went exactly against those promises. He has lied and followed the devil's what he's done, because the devil's the father of lies. He's been deceitful. When I get up in the morning, I look in the mirror and I look at Charles Van Morgan, and like my mother said, when you say something, is it the truth? If it's not the truth, don't say it. Apologize for it. I'm not apologizing for a damn thing because I haven't lied about anything. You watch all my videos. There's not a lie in there. None of them. They don't hold that standard. They lie. Now what I say is pretty horrific, but that don't make it not true. What I say is political, but that doesn't make it not true. And the way I phrase things is very careful, because we're fighting a very serious, dangerous enemy. When you go into church and you lie to the public and you cause death, deceit, and sorrow, then somebody needs to stand up and call it like it is and not back down. So they like to silence me. We got over 1.3 million people have listened to this broadcast in the past about 3 months. So this is not a fluke, and it could die, and it will if y'all don't continue to watch, share, and like. So please do that. We're putting the truth out about power. Now, I'm not just talking off the top of my head about Governor Bill Lee, just for the sake of being cruel and wicked or some kind of vendetta. I'm talking about Governor Bill Lee because he ran for power and lied to you. And is causing Tennesseans in several ways to get dead. That's not funny. That's not a game. 1.3 million and coming up on 1.5 million, and hopefully 2 million if you keep sharing, liking, and spreading, will hear this truthful message that Bill Lee has taken measures, even while he's in office, to stop a message telling the truth about him. He literally believes his own rhetoric. That's what makes him so dangerous. He literally believes that God, I think he believes that God's going to strike me dead with lightning because I'm telling the truth about him. He literally believes that God is on his side to go into church and lie to the public because he believes his own lies. And he's a propagandist. One of his best friends, according to another billionaire, is a dirty scoundrel. So let's look at his lies and match it up with reality and what the Bible says. You know, these people love to wave the Bible, the most popular, most sold book in the world ever. And they know there's a lot of belief in it, a lot of false belief in a lot of things, but they know the Bible's popular. And they stand up and they wave that Bible. Vote for me. I believe this stuff in that Bible. Do they ever open that Bible up and look at it and read some of the verses and what it says? You know, I do that myself. And I look in the mirror, and I do that before I do these shows. That's the difference between me and Bill Lee. And I think, am I telling the truth? Am I being honest? Am I caring about other people? Am I trying to stop injustice wherever I find it? Am I standing on my principles, whether or not it's popular? Oh, this ain't popular, but I'm standing on not only my principles, I'm standing on the 10 commandments, the truth. And where I do wrong, God forgive me. And if somebody can point out something I said that's wrong, that I said this is wrong, this is the truth, and where you could send me an email, I'll apologize for it. But there's nothing I've said, and I've looked over stuff, and I think about everything I say. It's not a bunch of foolishness or not a bunch of anger. This is the truth. This is a public service message for you. It is a public service in the United States under the Constitution to stand up against people in power where they fool you, where they use Christian nationalism to deceive you. It's just as bad, probably worse, than playing the race card, than saying vote for me because I'm black or vote for me because I'm white. Both of them do it. Christian nationalism does the same thing. Vote for me because I got a Bible. Well, open that damn Bible up and look in the mirror and see what it says, see if you line up. Because someday, let me assure you, there's a lot of people run over me in my lifetime. A heck of a lot of them. And then they died, and then they stand before God. And I'm sure to this day, because facts are facts. Now, they manipulate them in the state of Tennessee. And I assure you, some of them stood before God and paid for the lie that they told on me while they were on this planet. And I pray that God makes people answer on the face of this planet. Some of them don't, a lot of them do, for the wrong that they do against me and against the public. So let's look at his lies. Made 3 promises, and in a church, he campaigned in a church, had a video in his church, said his mom and dad raised him from a kid, had some kind of great political expert say, yeah, go into church and say you're a Christian farmer. And I've knocked on doors all over the state of Tennessee, and a lot of them said they can't think of nobody said anything bad about Bill Lee, and he's a church-going Christian farmer, good man. And let me tell you, I'll say something bad about him. That's not defamation, it's the truth, and it needs to get out because he affects society. And it's not a lie. I looked in the mirror. I say, hey, if I'm lying, stop me, because I'll stand before God someday. That's my litmus test. I'll stand before God. Does God want me saying this? Not that I'll stand before some man and he says it ain't true when I know it is. It's unpopular. I'll stand before God for what I say, and it is every bit the truth. And you have to fight. You can't play with these people. They're very dangerous. They cost people their lives, and I'm getting ready to get into that. And so I would be remiss in my duties as a citizen of the United States, as a broadcaster, report to you that Mr. Bill Lee is a fine man. He's not a fine man. And the reason I'm bringing this up, we got another election coming up. Who we got running? Now, vote for your core values. And a lot of people tell me we're voting for the worst, the best of the worst, and sometimes that's the case. You know, maybe you should vote independent or vote for people that you wouldn't have thought of that have your core values. But he made these 3 promises, and I'm going to measure him by his own standards, by what he said himself, not what I said that his standards should be, the standards that he laid out in a church almost the end of his term. And let's see if he measures up to the standards. He love neighbors as you're more than yourself is what he said. But which neighbors is that? You know, he campaigns with Bill Haslam. It's who he went to his house for his re-election campaign and campaigned at the rich billionaire Bill Haslam's house. The rich billionaire Bill Haslam is who the neighbor he's talking about. Jesus was talking about love all your neighbors. You know, there's a principle in the Bible. It's a principle. He claimed to be a Christian. Now, this is stuff he said, not me. He said this. He claims to be a Christian. Does he open that Bible up? It's a principle in the Bible. Very well known, if you ever looked into it any and studied and thought about it. The people that are mistreated, that are injustice, that you need to love, and that's the second thing he said, that to stand up against injustice no matter where we find it. What if you find it in your own hearts, in your own government, that you have made it an unjust government? Then we're not going to worry about that. He's talking about fighting everybody else because he's a Christian and he's good and everybody else is bad. That's not the Christian faith. I don't know what faith he's following. It ain't the faith of Jesus Christ. It's the faith of Satan, who's the father of lies. That's what I think about Bill Lee, and that's the truth. Let's measure it up with the facts. He's in government power. People are dying. When I was in government power, I was a follower of Jesus Christ. People didn't die, they lived. I saved more people than any trooper in the state. And he's continued to facilitate an injustice and promote people that have caused injustice. That's the Christian governor. Now, God's not going to judge me, and I love doing this. God's not going to judge me. Let's look around for some lightning. You see any lightning? because I don't think Bill Lee's a good man. I don't know his heart, but I don't think, let's see. Now, yeah, I don't see God judging me. You see me getting hit by lightning? The Bible teaches, and this isn't, I'm not preaching a sermon, I'm just telling you the scripture, the holy word of God, from a scientific standpoint, and I'm a Christian, but I'm just telling you what it says, and the philosophies that it teaches, even if you're not a Christian, just from outside looking in. What he says and the truth about what the Bible really says doesn't measure up. Hell no, it doesn't measure up. How dare you? And God's not going to judge me for speaking the truth to power, not to him. He's not going to listen to what I say. He doesn't care. His conscience is seared. He has none. He thinks he's right. He literally thinks God's going to strike me with lightning. You know, he might if I lie, if I bear false witness, because that's one of the 10 Commandments, right beside murder, which is what he do. And I'm not just saying, I'm telling you the truth. So he says love his neighbors. He loves his rich neighbors. It's a principle in the Bible, in God's holy word. Loving your neighbors. And the principle in the Bible is to help the poor and the afflicted and the sick and the needy. I remember my grandfather used to pray that. He'd pray, and it showed me how to pray and went to church. And my grandfather was a great, kind, caring man. He'd give you the shirt off his back. A very tough man. You know, he wouldn't tolerate, you wouldn't bully him around. A lot of my personality. And he used to pray. When he prayed, he said, Lord, help the poor and the needy and the sick and the afflicted. That's what he prayed, because he's a Christian, a follower of Jesus. A principle in the Bible that talks about don't hurt one of these little ones. Talking about children, better you hang a millstone around their neck, they'd be cast into the sea. Don't hurt little children. Talks about foreigners. Don't hurt foreigners. Now that doesn't mean don't enforce the law, but we should be just and fair with people that come here from another country legally and legitimately. We should be just and fair. We should be just and fair with criminals. That doesn't mean that we don't enforce the law. And with the fatherless and the widows. And the principle in the Bible is this fact here, that government and governance is oppressive towards people who don't have a lot of political clout, who don't have a lot of political say. That's why the Bible, Jesus promises help from God. It's in that Bible that they hold up. It's in that Bible. It's in that Bible that they hold up and talk about, and they're running the government. The governments are notoriously, they're human. They're fallible. And they mistreat people that don't have a lot of politics, that don't have a daddy or a brother or somebody with a lot of money that can pay these lobbyists. So notoriously, fatherless, widows, and strangers, God promises special help, because in the government and in front of judges, then they're going to get severe punishment or adjudicated against them when they're right. Because notoriously the government favors people that have a lot of clout. And in this world, in this evil world, our governance is going to go for the power. And so, but God promises special help. I believe that. God's on my side. He's not on Bill Lee's side, because Bill Lee is not in favor of the less powerful. And then he stands in the church and says, love your neighbor more than yourself. And then he goes on to offend his neighbor, the people that are less powerful in the state of Tennessee. That's hypocrisy at its worst. Hypocrisy. Bill Lee, you look in the mirror, and I don't know if he watches, he might. I know he's had flyers on his desk. God's going to judge you. Now, you may think you're right, but let me tell you how you're wrong. And the prophet in the Bible, a man came to him and said, he was telling about all the evil that the people in power done, and the prophet and the leader said, who's doing all this? And the prophet pointed at him, you're doing that. You did that. You're the one doing it. And Mr. Bill Lee, and I've told him before, his conscience is seared. You're doing that, Bill Lee. You're responsible for this. You're over the government. You lied to people. God's not going to judge me. I pray God protects me against you, and I believe he will. And he does every day. Now here's some things he's done. 15 to 16 hospitals closed. They're not clothes for his rich billionaire. They're clothes for little children, less powerful, the fatherless and the widow and the stranger. That's who they're clothes for. But he said, love your neighbor as yourself. Who's neighbor? It's not the neighbor in the Bible he's talking about, because the neighbor in the Bible is talking about the people that are less influential, that have less power in the government, that still have less power in the government, and Billy lied. Unless he was just talking about his rich neighbor, Bill Haslam, which is what he was talking about. So he's closed 15 to 16 hospitals. The highest per capita closure in the United States of America under a Christian. That doesn't sound very Christian to me, because his rich buddies don't want hospitals open, because his rich buddies got hospitals. That's what he cares about. Now, he said that in a church. He said that, not me. And he believes his own rhetoric. He believes that that's what makes him dangerous as hell. He's very dangerous. And people in the Christian nationalism that are the leaders, not the people, are very dangerous. They're getting your votes by lying to you. Open the Bible, look at what they say, and then measure it by what he does. We got a long measuring stick. He's been in office over 3 years. Let's look at how he's done. He lied. He's followed the devil, not Jesus. A Christian is synonymous with the follower of Jesus. Mr. Billy, and God's not going to judge me, I'm looking around, I'm saying, has not been a follower of Jesus. He's been a follower of deceit, which is the devil who he follows. That's what I think, and that's the truth, and I'm not afraid to say it. I looked in the mirror this morning, and I said, is it true? And it is true. Let's measure it up. When people die because of you, there's a problem, and I'm not afraid to say that. Liberty or death, I'll speak the truth to power. I'm not talking to him. I could care less what he thinks. I know what he thinks. It's wrong. He needs to be stopped at the voting booth. And whoever runs on his ticket needs to be stopped. So, more hospitals per capita closed. People die on the way to the hospital. The hospital crisis in Tennessee, Christian governor, hospital crisis. Jesus was the great physician. He raised people from the dead. Bill Lee is the great catastrophe that's caused more Tennesseans to get killed in more ways than one. Let's speak the truth. I looked in the mirror. What I'm saying is absolutely positively true. When I stand before God, I won't have to say I shouldn't have said that against my man that was the great governor of Tennessee, had his pictures up everywhere, because God's not a respecter of persons. God's a respecter of people that trust in the Lord Jesus Christ. And when they claim to be a Christian, they follow Christian values. He does not. I mean, the facts speak for themselves. More hospitals closed per capita than any state in the United States. But he's the Christian. I'd rather live in a state where somebody says I'm not a Christian, but I believe in hospital care, than somebody that lies like he does. He lies, lies, lies. And he lied about his first thing, except unless he's being deceitful, which is worse, because the neighbor he cares about more than himself is Bill Haslam, because that's where he goes and has his re-election campaigns. And he's not visiting the fatherless and the widow in their affliction, afflicted by people in the government power. He set that standard, not me. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor, you're going to provide, while you're in government office, you're going to enact policies that increase hospital care for the sick and the needy and the poor and the afflicted. But he's a Christian. He set the standard. Now I'm asking him to hold true to what he said. He won't do it. His conscience is seared, and everybody around him in that administration, their conscience is seared. They're not people to be talked to and discussed and work things out. They're people to be elected out of office and symbolically annihilated, and we don't need no more of that in this state. We need health care. People are dying, and our roads are crumbling, and more people are getting killed in dangerous wrecks. And that's the truth. And when I stand before God, I won't be judged for speaking the truth. In fact, if I didn't tell you the truth, I'd be judged. And there's a lot of politicians, back up other politicians, that back up other politicians, that back up the polity, back up the powerful, that when they get to heaven and they were in power, they're going to be judged for their lies. Not me. I'm speaking the truth. It's not an easy thing to do. And the last thing he says, even when it's unpopular, and it's very unpopular. I've been kicked out of political speeches where I was right in the middle of my speech and asked not to continue because I'm speaking stuff that's unpopular to the people in power. Of course it is. Of course, that's what I want to do, because they shouldn't be in power. That's my right in this country. In the United States, called the First Amendment. They asked me to come speak at a church. Now, they'll let Bill Lee come and speak at a church, but little children can't go to a hospital because of Bill Lee, but he's more than welcome. He can spend all the time he wants to at a church here in South Knoxville or over on Southern Avenue. And I'm not sure the pastor's involved in this, but the Republican Party asked me to come and speak at an event, told me they'd give me 5 minutes to speak, and everybody had the same amount of time. They invited and I usually vote Republican, but I was going to vote, but I would vote for a Democrat if they had some of my core values, because some of the Democratic beliefs are appropriate beliefs. Neither side is on God's side. Both sides are about power. So there's some good in both of them. Some of my core beliefs I won't bend on. And I'm telling people to vote for your core beliefs that are in accordance to Christian beliefs. I believe in helping the poor and the needy, the sick and the afflicted. I believe the government should be fair with the poor and the needy and the sick and the afflicted. Governor Bill Lee does not believe that. His policies show what he believes. He believes in the rich and the powerful and his buddies, and he's per capita more hospitals have been closed. So they had a Democrat come and speak at a Republican event. They had a Democrat, which is fine with me, but why do you call it a Republican event? And the problem was, I usually vote Republican, but this person never voted Republican in their life. She got up and speak, and they gave her a full time. Didn't interrupt her. This is a Republican event. Let a Democrat come and speak. Didn't interrupt her. Didn't challenge anything she said. Everybody clapped at a Republican event. This is Republicans, Christian nationalists. Because if she won, they had a little bit of a bite in the power. We helped you get elected even though you're a Democrat. Because it ain't about Democrat and Republican to them. It's about power to them. It's about power. To me, when I look in the mirror, it's about the public. It's about the mass populace. It's about serving the public. It's about standing before God and the things I say, whether they're true or not, like my mother said. It's about following the 10 Commandments, not bearing false witness. And I'm not bearing false witness. And that's going to be a problem for you, Governor Bill Lee, because you are. And what you're doing is dangerous for Tennessee. Somebody send him a copy of this. Call him on the phone. Tell him over 1.3 million people are hearing the rhetoric of Charles Van Morgan that's truth. He's got facts, and I do. So Bill Lee is closing down hospitals. They invited me to speak at that convention, and let the Republican finish her speech. And I got up and said about 3 sentences, and they told me I couldn't say that. I was being rude. So you're allowed to speak at Republican conventions as long as you get in there and you say people in power are great people and I love them, and don't worry about the poor and the needy and sick and afflicted. They'll take care of their damn self. It's about us. And I'm a Christian. Hold that Bible up and amen. Praise the Republican Party. Amen. But if you get up there and say, hey, this is not right for the public, for the mass populace. This is dangerous. What's going on? It's against the Constitution. This needs to be dealt with. Our country's not run right. Oh my goodness, don't you challenge our power in our forum. Well, then don't ask me to come and speak in your forum, and don't let a Democrat finish their speech without allowing me to speak, and then don't allow another Democrat to finish a whole speech and talk 10 minutes and tell me you're doing fair. You stop me from speaking to 1.3 million people, Republican Party in Knoxville. You're not going to do it. 1.3 million people are hearing you. The trash that's the Republican Party in Knoxville, Tennessee. They're trash. They're not Republican. They're power mongers. They want your power. They want to close down hospitals, and they want you to give them tax money so they can steal it from you, so they can live high on the hog and you can go hungry. They want to stand up in church and say, we're Christian, when they do the exact opposite. That's what the Republican Party in Knoxville is. And you know, they said they're not going to let me speak in another Republican forum. Oh, well, don't hurt my feelings. the one that said that, he's got a video channel trying to be like one of those great movie stars. The experience, you know, calling it the whatever experience. And he's got some pretty popular political people speak, and he's never got more than a few thousand people watch his cruddy show. And you know, I don't have to speak at your forum. There wasn't many people there. Over 1.3 million people are listening to me, and I'm not going to mention your name to give you any credibility. But just a few thousand people, and he's never on there. So we're getting a message out more than what they ever dreamed of. I don't need to speak at your Republican crooked conventions, and if you ask me to, I might. But next time I'm gonna make you pay me, and the next time I'm gonna get my time, and you're not gonna interrupt me. I'm gonna tell you to shut the hell up. You got that? He even acted like he was gonna, you know. I mean, I'm telling you, I used to work the road. This is all I'll say about this. Used to work the road, big fat fella. That's who he is. Used to work the road. I arrested more people than anybody in this state of Tennessee. Now you got some bad data, thug. People say I'm a coward. I arrested more people than anybody in the state. They say I'm a coward, but I arrested more people at night by myself than any trooper in the whole state of Tennessee. One of the most dangerous things you can do, take people's freedoms away. They will fight you. I never got a scratch on me. I'm pretty capable. I'm getting a little older, but I'm pretty capable of defending myself. So if you want to try me, you might find yourself on the wrong end of the bargain. You got that? Because it won't bother me, because self-defense is a right. I won't attack anybody, never would I ever, and I don't believe in violence. But the Second Amendment is there for defense against a rogue government. And I defend myself, and I'm pretty damn good at it. So if you want to go along with your bad lies, go ahead. But you better go along with evidence and proof, because you don't see a scratch on me. So, and I don't think he will. He's a coward. But anybody seeking to harm me, and a lot of people in government power would, that's not a good idea. It'll just make it worse. And I pray for protection. People pray for my protection. Very dangerous what I'm doing. I know that. And people got to do what God asked them to do. So they don't like my speech. Maternal death is rising. Elders dying in transit to hospital because of Governor Bill Lee, love your neighbor as yourself. He's talking about neighbors that live in his area, the rich neighbors. In rural areas, they've closed down hospitals. They closed down a hospital in 2 different cities. In 2022, they just closed down one. And in 2019, they closed down a hospital in a rural area. And that even hurts tourism, because people don't want to come to Tennessee because they know they'll have to travel a long way to go to a hospital. So it's not even good business sense. It's not even good business sense. And I'll tell you the reason why they're closing down hospitals. So like, share, comment. The reason they're closing down hospitals. The reason they're closing down hospitals is because in the United States of America, if you have hospitals open, if somebody doesn't have 1 cent, you have to provide medical care to that person, life-saving medical care. So anybody that comes in your emergency room, you've got to check them out and make sure they don't have a life-threatening emergency. And if they have a life-threatening emergency, then it doesn't matter if it costs $10 million. You gotta sustain them. You can't send them out in the parking lot to die. That can be expensive. In today's economy, in today's world, there's a lot of people that don't have the money to pay for medical care. So the way they stop poor people from getting medical care, life-sustaining medical care, they don't care if you die. Mr. Bill Lee doesn't care if you die, or he wouldn't be closing down hospitals. He cares about his billfold, his buddy's billfold. Because opening up hospitals can be expensive if you have a lot of poor people that can't pay for it, because if you have a hospital open, they've got to provide life-sustaining medical care. If it costs $1 million, they got to do that. It's the law. But so the way they avoid that is they close down hospitals, so there's only very few, so that they've got an excuse. Well, they had 5 people dying, and they could only take care of one of them. And they were getting to them. They were calling people in or whatever they had to do. But if they got hospitals open up all over the place, then they have to provide more life-saving emergency care. So they close down hospitals, and if you got a insurance card, or if you got a lot of money, you get to the front of the line no matter what. They'll say your situation is serious, even though it's not, and take care of you first. And if you got a life-saving emergency, then they'll put a Band-Aid on you and make sure you can stay alive to get out the door and get down the street, so that they won't be held financially liable in a lawsuit that they didn't provide the life-sustaining medical services that they have to if they open up a hospital. So in order to avoid that, what they do is they close down the hospital, so there's no place for you to go. So like right down here was Baptist Hospital, and now they've closed it down, so you can't go in there. Before, you could go in there and, hey, I need medical service. Somebody shot me, and I'm about to die. And so they had to bring you in, and they have to treat you. They have to sew you up, take your bullet out, whatever they need to do to keep you alive, so that you could live long enough to at least go home. If they had to keep you there for a few days, even if you didn't have the money to pay for it, they had to do that. They have to provide life-saving medical care. So what do? You go down there now, there's no hospital there. They ain't got to provide shit. So, you're just out of luck. So they got very few hospitals. So if you go to another hospital, there's a big long line. So they're going to provide medical care, but they're providing for somebody else first. So it limits the amount of care that they have to provide for seriously poor people. The reason they close down hospitals is to save them money, and they'll step over your bodies to save you money. They won't tell you that. They'll hold up the Bible and say, love your neighbors yourself. But they're not talking about you. They're talking about love their rich neighbor and kill the people. The principle in the Bible is to take care of people that can't take care of theirself, that don't have political clout. And there's verses in the Bible to say that God helps people that don't have a lot of political help, and God helps people against Bill Lee that don't have a lot of political help. Regardless of what he says, his conscience may be seared, but God can knock him the hell out. He can knock him the hell out of office, and he sends people like me to tell you about his real character, which is bad. He follows lies and uplifts the rich and powerful, and anybody can do that. That's what they do. It takes somebody with some guts, fortitude, and some care, and really loves his neighbor, to stand up, even on a public sidewalk, and say these people in power are lying to you. They're detrimental to your health. Close down hospitals. Elders dying in transport. Follow the money. National debt rate rising. Because he said his own standard, love your neighbor. So he loves his neighbor, right? Yeah. He don't love his neighbor. All his neighbors. He loves his rich neighbors. Contrary to the principle. Medical lie. Physical cruelty, not responsibility. 40 states expanded their medical care. Tennessee refused. Billions of dollars rejected by the government. Instead, he gave corporate tax breaks. He gave a tax break to his own company, the Lee Company. Gave a tax break to his own company while refusing to accept federal funds to help poor people. And he said, love your neighbor as yourself. That's what he said, not me. He said that. He used those words, not me. I guess he loves his company and loves his money more than he does his neighbors, loves his billionaire buddies. That's what he does. And people in churches, he's a good man. I haven't heard anything bad about him. Wait till you listen to me. I'm not afraid of him. I'll tell you a lot bad about him. He's a creep. He's a thug. He upholds the death of innocent people every day. He's not a good man. He's a wicked man. He's a very evil man. He's a Christian nationalist that lies to people and ought to be investigated for the crimes that he's committed. Ought to be in jail is what I think. That's my personal opinion. I don't care who he is. I'll speak truth to power, not to him. I've spoken. I've had people send him messages. I know what he thinks. He doesn't think right. He needs an attitude adjustment. I'm here to give it to him. In America, even the poor can speak out against you. 1.3 million people, Governor Lee. You know, you look at his video channels. He's the governor and hasn't got as many views as this. Maybe he needs to start loving his neighbor like I do, and he'd be a little bit more popular. So I'm giving you all this. This isn't benefiting me. It could be to my demise. I got to stand before God. I'll tell you the truth. That's who my judge is, God. And he needs to readjust his little attitude a little bit. Does anyone ever speak against him like this? No, why? Because they're afraid of him. You know, he's got the highway patrol guarding him. I'm in the least bit afraid of those babbling idiots. Some of them couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. So, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say bring it on because I don't want to waste my time fighting with idiots, but I would if I had to. They better leave me alone. So truth to power. The power I'm speaking to is you all. I have tried to send him messages. I've made complaints to his internal affairs. He knows he doesn't care. And the reason why I filed complaints, you say, why do you do that? It's so useless. To document that, hey, I said this, and he didn't care. He didn't care. And I'll tell you about the complaints that I filed through his internal affairs. So the medical lie, physical cruelty, not responsibility. Florida states expanded Medicaid. Tennessee refused. Billions of dollars rejected. Corporate tax breaks instead. Turning down help is ending lives. So he gave, while he's been in office, he gave his company and a lot of billionaire companies tax breaks and turned down medical care for the poor. That's not Christian. That's not serving Jesus. And loving his neighbor as himself. The traffic fatality rate under his lack of leadership, under his lies, has increased exponentially since 2012 to 2025. The traffic fatality rates went up 45%. More people killed on Tennessee roadways. While they work to use your money to make the roads more dangerous, even for themselves. So he talks about the Bible, the 9th commandment. Do not bear false witness. And the truth is not optional if you're a Christian. It's not. And that's a sin against your neighbor, to lie on your neighbor. So he says love your neighbor more than yourself, then don't lie against your neighbor. Don't lie against Tennesseans. Don't use your road courts to perpetrate lies against your neighbor, against Tennesseans. That's what he does. That's Governor Bill Lee. He uses courts inappropriately. He's a power monger. My campaign vote based on truth, not stepping over the line of truth. And I look in the mirror, I do, and I say, are you telling the truth? Like my mother used to say, are you bearing false witness? Because when I die, I'm going to stand before God. I believe that. I'm a Christian. That's what I believe. All this stuff I'm telling you, it's very inflammatory. Every bit of it is the truth. It's not stuff that's ad hoc. It's stuff I've thought about. It's stuff that I know, stuff that I've seen with my own 4 eyes. It's not a bunch of baloney. It's the truth. So when I speak against people, now court rules are different, and they won't let me go in a courtroom. I would have agreed to follow court rules, but they won't let me go in a courtroom, so I don't have to follow their court rules. This is political speech to try to impress on people not to vote for Christian nationalists, the leaders of the parties. This is political speech. So if I were in a courtroom, the courtroom situation is different. Evidence is anything that tends to prove or disprove a matter is evidence. But in a courtroom, not all is relevant evidence. But not all evidence is admissible in a courtroom. That means it could prove or disprove a matter, and it be relevant. But relevant evidence is any evidence that can prove or disprove a matter at issue in the case. But not all relevant evidence is admissible in a courtroom because of a lot of different court rules. It's a boxed off, and the court are designed to be fair. Now, they're not fair, but they're supposed to be, and there's court rules that they ignore. For example, giving communicative evidence, like you can show pictures of a crime scene, but you can't show 1,000 of them because the thinking is it's under the rule of unfairly prejudicial. Even though it's relevant, it's truthful, in a courtroom they want it to be fair, and it can be unfairly prejudicial because they want to guard against, in a courtroom with a fair trial or a fair civil trial or a fair criminal trial, they want to guard against the jury saying, look at all the blood and gore of the murder scene, saying we're going to convict somebody for doing it. Even if he didn't do it, somebody's going down, that's so horrible. So they're going to try to prevent the jury from seeing too much blood and gore and wanting somebody to go to jail. They're going to try to prevent unfair, prejudicial, relevant evidence from being admitted. So there's a limit to how much of the blood and gore you can show in a courtroom. And there's other rules in a courtroom that it's relevant evidence, but you can't show it because they want to be fair to the jury, and both sides can't. Now, there's ways to get around that Tennessee people in power do. They ring the bell, stuff they know shouldn't be in, but they say it to the jury and the other side objects, and then the judge tells them to ignore what the prosecutor just said so that they can get out of telling you, so that they rung the bell. Even though it wasn't admitted and the jury's instructed not to consider the evidence that the prosecutor said, they still rung the bell, the jury still heard it, and it's going to be on their mind. So they do a lot of crooked stuff. You get around those rules. But in a courtroom, they won't let me go in a courtroom. There's rules to try to keep it fair. And they don't even follow those rules. But this isn't a courtroom. This is not a courtroom. Now, they lie in a courtroom. They listen to attorney-client privilege. Cases have been done about that. They ring the bell. This is out here on a public sidewalk, published discourse to over 1.3 million people. Coming up on soon, I hope if y'all like, share, and comment, 1.5 million people will hear this message about people in government power to protect the public. This is for you. I'm giving this for you. It's not for me. It puts me in danger. And so listen. But out here in the public, and I've been trained. I know this stuff. I went to their law schools. I went to their schools to learn how to do this, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm very good at what I do. I led the state in driving arrests when that's what my focus was. I kept people from getting killed because I was given to you more than any trooper in the state because I cared about human life. I care about human life now. That's why I'm giving you. Bill Lee doesn't care about human life. He doesn't. He says he does. He may even think he does, but he's wrong. Don't look at what he says. Look at the results, what he does. His own standard, used Christian rhetoric, and then violates it. Wow, easy to point out. You set a high standard, you don't even get on first base as far as following that standard, you creep. Governor, you ought to resign, write out your own warrant. You know some of the stuff you do in the back hallways and turn yourself into jail. Get yourself a mug shot like you gave me for speaking out against you. This is the reason why they put me in jail, for speaking out against him. You'll never hear the other side if Bill Lee has anything to do with it. That's what a creepy is. I know what they say about me. They've got it in false legal rulings. None of it is true. I'll stand before God. None of it is. They lie, even in court rulings. But out on the street, in this world, this is called politics. This is, and it's not just politics telling the truth. This is speaking truth to power, your power. And the court rules of being unfairly prejudicial doesn't apply. It's nowhere. It doesn't. I'm not trying to be not unfairly. I didn't write that down here. Where I'm not. You say, wow, you're not trying to. You're going to be unfairly prejudicial. Hell yes. I can look in the mirror. There's nothing wrong with that. You know why? Because unfairly prejudicial is a courtroom rule. It's not on the street rule because they're lying on the street. They're lying. They're liars. They are putting forth lies, flat out blatant lies that cause people to die that are not true. They can look in the mirror and say that. Everyone I'm saying is true, and the answer to that is no. It is not true. You're lying. You're misleading the public. It's causing people to get killed. We'll stand before God someday. What I'm doing, and hell yes, I'm unfairly prejudicial. That's a courtroom rule. Because I'm fighting people. And I'm just being honest with them. I'm just telling you the way it is. You don't like it? Hey, I'm giving you this. I'm as honest as they come. Am I unfairly prejudicial? Hell yes. Hell yeah, I am, and I'll tell you why. Because my value is don't bear false witness. Don't bear false witness. I'm not bearing false witness. Being unfairly prejudicial is not bearing false witness. It's the truth. So it may be unfairly prejudicial, but it's the truth. Every bit of it's the truth. We're fighting a war. We're fighting a battle against liars, against creeps, criminals, against thugs in high places, in power, that go into church and say 3 things and then walk out of that church and win public office and do the exact opposite of those 3 things. And so being unfairly prejudicial is some people's standard, but it ain't mine. I'll show 1,000,000 pictures of the crime scene if that's what it takes to get the truth to you all, to get the message out, to convince you not to vote for these thugs and criminals. So unfairly prejudicial, hell yeah. I'll show you all the crime scene pictures, all the blood and gore. Convict these people. They did it. They did it. Governor Bill Lee did it, and he continues to do it to this day. His power don't make a damn bit of difference to me. The power that I'm for is the power that's really in the Bible. Open up that book and see what it says. It says to protect the less powerful. And if you don't, you might have hell to pay. So if he listens to me, I'll even protect him. So the 9th commandment, don't bear false witness. Unfairly prejudicial, yes. I'll show a lot of pictures of the crime scene if you want to say that's unfairly prejudicial. But it's all the absolute honest to God truth in the realm of politics. I will not cross over the line and tell you something that's not true. I won't do that. I refuse to do that. I have to stand before God. I fear God, not man. So the truth to them is optional. The truth to me is not optional. It is not. I have not lied in anything I've ever said, and I will not lie. Now, there's a lot of ways I phrase things. It's not deceptive. It's the truth. To ask questions, and their phrase is a question. Is this going on? I don't know. So there's a difference in what I say is fact, and when I say it's fact, I've looked into it. I know what I'm talking about. And if I've made a mistake, and I don't think I have, then let me know, and I'll apologize for it. I'll look into it, apologize for it. If you tell them they've made a mistake, they won't look into it to apologize for it. They'll double down on their lie because they will not be proven wrong. They're afraid of the truth. So there's ringing the bell. So like, share, comment. And thank y'all very much. Spread the message. So they don't care about lying. I do. Unfairly prejudicial, I just told you. That's part of the game. That's part of winning an honest fight. As far as stepping over the line to lie, I won't do it. And they will. And you don't win a battle by playing with people that are damaging the public. So I have had a personal conflict that involves the public for 13 years, 9 months, and 30 days. They took my job from me while I was out protecting the public, caring for my neighbor. On January the 30th, 2012. Since then, fatality rate has skyrocketed. 13 years and 9 months. They turned me down for my law license. This is an ongoing fight. By their false, the 10 Commandments, giving false testimony, bearing false witness. The government, in their power, because they bear false witness, they lied. 9 months and 21 days ago, they turned me down for my law license. Can't go in there and practice law to defend the public. I can defend you in a courtroom. I have to abide by court rules. I can't bring community evidence. I can't be unfairly prejudicial. Now, unfairly prejudicial means all evidence is prejudicial. All evidence is. That's relevant evidence is all prejudicial, but it can't be unfairly prejudicial. It has to be extremely prejudicial in order for you not to be allowed in a courtroom. Because if you think about it, if it's relevant evidence and it prejudices your side in some way, or you wouldn't bring it out. But the deal is in the court that it can't be unfairly, extremely prejudicial. So if you're arguing that you should be able to bring evidence and the other side is arguing that you shouldn't be able to bring that in, you can't say it's a close call, because if it's a close call, it gets in. You have to argue that it's completely out of base, out of line for you to show 100 pictures of the crime scene. That will horrifically influence a jury to find your client guilty, so that they shouldn't be limited to that. But out in the public discourse, you can say, you can show as many pictures of the crime scene as you want to. You can be unfairly prejudicial as long as it's the truth. Now, I'm subject to defamation laws, but there's nothing I'm saying that's defamation. It's all the truth. Now, they defame us with lies sitting behind judicial immunity, absolute immunity. A judge can lie on you in their ruling. They can say the most heinous, awful things, and they do all the time. That's what I'm fighting against. And they're protected from defamation, because defamation is unprivileged, false communication. Communicate to at least a third person that tends to lower you in the stand of the community, because people not want to do business with you. So, unprivileged. A judge is privileged to give defamation, to say false stuff about you. It means they can do it, you can't sue them, they're not liable for that. So their standard is protected, and that's what they protect. They protect their right to get these people elected into office, so that they can defame members of the public that don't go along with their power. And they do a lot of things to protect their power that's wrong. So recently I filed a complaint with OPR against Major Stacy Heatherly with the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Document, signed my name to it. Two things. She said that she is retired from the 1175th 278th Division of the Army National Guard. She's still in Ballard. She never served one day. Never served one day that we can find. I've checked with the records, and they don't have any record of her doing that. If she served, let her come forward with it. They haven't answered me. So I filed that complaint, showed them a flyer. She put that out on the flyer. Same flyer I got down here at the City County building. I told the Highway Patrol that. Bill Lee, Christian Bill Lee, love his neighbor more than himself. Injustice, wherever you find it. You found it in your own agency. I pointed it out to you. And standing for the truth, your values, even when it's unpopular. That's his standard. So, and two, Major Stacy Heatherly was working while she was on workers' comp. Not supposed to be working, not cleared by a doctor, in uniform, working. She had a car wreck because of the environment she created. And then she was working while she was on workers' comp, not cleared from a doctor, not medically capable of protecting other people's lives or her life. She was in uniform, violated the workers' compensation rules, working before she was cleared to work by a doctor. Turn that into with CAD evidence, where she responded to a call where somebody shot at a trooper, according to them. Now, a lot of things they say are pure, flat-out lies. And turn that in, wrote it up, signed my name, mailed it to the Office of Professional Responsibility at the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Now, her best friend is Lionel Russell, and he is over revoking people's law license for doing stuff like she's doing. And that's her best girlfriend, she says. So do you think that he's going to ever revoke her law license for lying and being a danger to public safety, not being fit for duty? So I filed those two complaints. Governor Bill Lee said his own standard is to fighting against injustice, standing against it no matter where you find it. Found it in your own department. I told him. What did he do after I told him? He promoted Stacy Heatherly from captain to major. So that's not standing against injustice wherever you find it. That's promoting injustice when you find it in your own house. And he holds up the Bible and claims to be a Christian. Christian nationalist, Christian liar, Christian hypocrite, dirtbag thug. You ought to write out his warrant. Governor Bill Lee, write out your warrant. You know a bunch of stuff I don't even know. The Pope don't even know you did. Write it out, sign your name to it, turn yourself in, go get your mug shot. You're a danger to public safety. you promote people who are a danger to public safety. That's what I know, and that's what I'm telling you. That's free. I'm not charging anything for that little bit of knowledge. So those two things he did that he's done. So you know, a dying declaration in the legal field. No man dies with a lie on his breath. You know, in a courtroom, you can't have hearsay. They won't let you have hearsay. Hearsay is an out-of-court statement other than one offered by the declarant at the present trial or hearing, offered into evidence as proof of the matter asserted. That's hearsay. That's a legal definition of hearsay. What that prevents is somebody in court testifying, and there's no one about what somebody else said, and there's nobody cross-examine them. Because in a courtroom, you have the right under our Constitution to face your accusers. So if somebody says that David so-and-so said this, then your attorney can't cross-examine David because he's not there. So you're not allowed to testify to what David said. He has to come and testify to that himself so that your attorney can cross-examine him. It is your right to face your accusers. And so hearsay is not allowed in a criminal trial. And hearsay is a statement made other than one by the declarant, offered into evidence at the present trial or hearing. So you can't testify to what somebody else says in a hearing. Now, there are a lot of exceptions to the hearsay rule where you can get in evidence, because the whole thing is the evidence isn't considered trustworthy. So if the evidence is considered trustworthy, then maybe you can get it in anyway, and there's court rules to allow some hearsay in a courtroom where you cannot face your accuser because the evidence is deemed trustworthy because of the facts of the situation. So one of the things that is allowed in a courtroom is what's called a dying declaration. And this is what I'm saying. A dying declaration is if a police officer comes upon the scene, and this is important because I'm telling you the truth. I know what I'm telling you, you might say is hearsay, but I'm telling you the truth because I'll stand before God. It's the same as a dying declaration. I'm not dying. I have no inclination of dying. But I'm telling you, I realize that I will stand before God someday. So you can trust what I'm saying as if it were a dying declaration. Dying declarations are even allowed in court, even though they're hearsay. A statement other than one made by the declarant at the present trial or hearing, offered into evidence as a proof of the matter asserted. You got to have the person there that says that. You can't repeat what somebody else says. So I'm telling you, you can trust my hearsay because it's similar to a dying declaration because I know I'll stand before God someday. So this is politics. So a dying declaration is if a police officer comes up on the scene, somebody dying, and the officer says who did it, or even a bystander witness sees somebody shot or something, and they're there bleeding, and they say who did this, and the person dying, they think they're going to die. They may say something like, I know I'm not going to survive this. I'm going to die. And they say, who did this? And they say, so it's a dying declaration. That's one of the criteria. They have to think that they're going to die. They don't necessarily have to die. They could survive it. But at the time, they have to think they're going to die. It has to be in their mind it's a dying declaration because people are normally assumed to not want to lie on their breath, on their tongue, the last thing they say. So if you come up on somebody, they're shot, and they're laying on the ground, and they say, oh, I'm going to die, I'm not surviving this, and you say, well, who did this? And they say, Johnny did this. I seen him, Johnny. He's mad at me about the truck I sold him or something. He shot me. Johnny did it. Johnny so-and-so. So the person dies, or when the person is in court, the witness that saw him die and ask him who did it. Now they can testify when asked what the dying witness thought he was going to die said, because it's considered a dying declaration. It's a way around the hearsay rule because of the fact that it's deemed trustworthy even though it's hearsay. So you don't need to cross-examine the declarant if you can prove the elements of the dying declaration. The person thought they were going to die, and they told you specific instances about that exact crime, and they told you who shot him. So you can go into court, even though Johnny, the person that got shot, is not there. You can go into court and you can say, well, he told me this is the person that shot him. That's hearsay. It's an out-of-court statement offered by somebody other than the person at the present trial hearing, other than the one that got shot, as to who that shot them. So that's hearsay, but it can still be allowed under dying declaration, because you don't want people to assume that they're not going to have a lie on their breath at the time. And I know I'm going to stand before God someday for the things I say, and so you can trust what I say, even if you think it's hearsay. And this, not just me, this is a systematic problem and pattern with THP, false claims ignored, working on comp time. And this is not a case when it happens. The policy happens hundreds of times with the Highway Patrol, and they're the ones going to decide who's at fault in that wreck that happened with J.D. Vance and his entourage protecting him, the motorcade. So that's how many people we got in here. We got just a few. Like, share, comment, and so what's at stake in this is cost of living, healthcare access, children's future, wrongful arrest, free speech. Your whole life can hinge on one dishonest official. So freedom of speech is at risk here, because what Governor Lee's done is Governor Lee has tried to prevent people like me from putting out truthful information about him, because what he's done is Governor Lee passed the Freedom of Information Act. Now the Freedom of Information Act prevents people like me, and like I did, from leaving leaflets on people's doorsteps. So this is what Governor Lee has done. You know, love your neighbor more than yourself. Fight injustice. Stand against injustice no matter where you find it. And stand by your principles, even when they're unpopular. That's what he said. Not what I said. I'm measuring him according to that standard. Love your neighbors yourself. He loves which neighbor? He's talking about his billionaire neighbors. He doesn't love the people in the Bible, and he's in a church that God says that need political help, that don't have political clout, the poor and the needy and the sick and the afflicted, fatherless and the widow and the stranger. That's your neighbor that God's talking about, that don't have political clout. Bill Haslam doesn't need Bill Lee to help him. The poor and the needy and the sick and the afflicted, the fatherless and the widows and the stranger need Bill Lee's love and concern, and they're not going to get it as long as he's the governor, even though he says that he campaigns against that. So Bill Lee's trying to stop me from getting out the truth about him. So Bill Lee passed the Freedom of Information Act, in addition to passing a bill that lowers his tax burden while people can't go to hospitals and while the food prices rise. He's made it a little easier for him to buy food and for him to live while using public service to serve himself. So it sounds like love your neighbor not as much as yourself, because you love yourself more, because somebody has to pay for all the government benefits that he's getting, his corporate welfare. Somebody's got to pay for that. So he loves himself. So Governor Bill Lee is trying to make it difficult for people to get out information like I am. Well, good luck, Bill Lee. 1.3 million people and rising. So if you like the message, help us get it out, because Bill Lee passed the Freedom of Information Act that makes it more difficult to get out information. Because when I ran against him in 2022, and I got the message out substantially with little money, I knocked on about 40,000 doors And I left leaflets at people's houses, just like they do, people that weren't home. And now you can't do that because he passed the Freedom of Information Act, and it was derogatory information, truthful information about Governor Bill Lee, about how he runs his government wrongly, and he's still doing it. I even left messages for him. People, they said, I know Bill Lee, he's a nice man. And I said, well, if he's a nice man, the Highway Patrol mistreated me. They caused people to get killed on the roadways. Tell him to correct his wrong. You know, if you love your neighbor as yourself, if you've done wrong, people do wrong, we're human, you would correct it. So he doesn't love anybody but his buddies, because he's not correcting anything. With nobody with political power, political clout, he doesn't love you. He doesn't care about you. He loves his rich buddies, his rich, powerful people is what he loves. It's Christian nationalism. The nationalism is the rich, powerful people. That's what he loves. That's what he cares about. That's what he does. Because I've had people, they said, okay, yeah, I'll tell him I fished with him. I'll tell him, and not only did he not do anything about that 13 years ago, and now he hasn't even corrected the complaints that I've sent him real recently. He has promoted people that have been unjust and not even answered the complaint. I sent him an update the other day to ask him what's the status of these complaints. So, and I'm honest, he's not. So the Freedom of Information Act, what that does, that he passed, is make it illegal to leave leaflets on people's doors, the unsolicited. So that's how they frame it. And if you know Freedom Act, any Freedom Act that stops speech that'll catch you too. I mean, they call it the Not Murder Act, and where they want to kill people. So it's the Anti-Freedom Act is what it is. And what that act does is prevent people like me from passing out political material on people's doors unless they specifically ask for it. I knocked on 40,000 doors in the past. In 2022, about 40,000 doors all across the United States. Now, I got so much pushback from government power, government money, to where people believe their lies that I couldn't get elected yet. And it's not over yet. 1.3 million people is a good start. And this started in 2022. It's no fluke. I know exactly what I'm doing. Persistence and determination can overcome lies. The truth is more valuable than lies. I'm telling you the truth about him. He lies about me. They lie about me in judicial rulings, and they lie. And I'm not a coward. I'm standing out here fighting him and giving you this free. So the Freedom of Information Act prevents me from doing that. What I did for 2 years, passed out flyers at 40,000 doors. I go up, knock on people's doors, which you can under the law, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Jehovah's Witness got that settled in the Supreme Court. So between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. you can go up to somebody's door if they don't have a no trespassing sign or a no soliciting sign. And there's a question about you can even do it with no soliciting sign, because you're not soliciting if you're running for public office, and you're not soliciting if you're giving out religious material. But barring a no trespassing sign, you can go up to somebody's house and knock on their door between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Unrequested, unasked for. And of course, if they ask you to leave, you have to leave immediately. But if they didn't, if they answered the door, then I'd tell them who I was and speak about running for office and talk about how horrible this government is, how they're mistreating people, closing down hospitals, and helping their rich buddies and getting out of their taxes, using the government power to get out of their taxes. And see, Mr. Bill Lee, Mr. Haslam don't want me saying that. It's the truth. They've got power and they've got money. They use your tax money to fund their political campaigns. And they use the government to fund their political campaigns. Now, they say they don't, but yeah, they do. Glenn Costa just went to jail over that. They mail out these legislative updates, which are political updates paid by tax money. But he's preventing me by that Freedom Act. If somebody wasn't home, they didn't answer the door, then I'd leave a leaflet on the door. Now, and he said you can't do that. They say that's littering, even on public or private property. What they're doing is, if somebody doesn't want that on their door, then they can come out and say, I don't want you here, please leave. You have to leave immediately. And I did. I didn't cause any trouble anywhere. And they said I did, but I didn't. They lie, because they don't want me knocking on the door, speaking the truth about them, speaking the truth to power, you, not them, against them. They shouldn't be in power. So he made it illegal for me to leave a leaflet now. So I can go up and knock on the door, and if nobody's there, I can't leave a leaflet, because that's just wasting my time. because he don't want that information about him, that truthful information about him there. Now you say, well, that's preventing litter. No, it's not, because what it is doing, that law is preventing freedom of speech, because a lot of people want material left there. They want to know what Governor Bill Lee's doing, and they appreciate it. I had people tell me, thank you for running. You're a blessing sent from God. A wonderful message. I agree with it. Most people do agree with my message. The reason why I didn't win is I didn't get my message out enough. More flyers, more of what I'm doing, and we'll tip the scale. They know that. They know that. They're trying to rig the election in the rich billionaires' favor, because there's more of us. There's more of you than there is them. Share the message. That's how we can get the message out. 1.3 million climbing. Share the message, because they made it even harder for me to talk about Bill Lee, the Bible-thumping liar that doesn't love you. He loves Bill Has-Been, the scoundrel. He doesn't stand on against injustice. He promotes it. And he doesn't stand on principle. He doesn't stand on principles in the Bible. He stands on his own principles to keep power in the elite's hands and to close down hospitals. So he stopped leafleting. And doesn't allow that. He stopped people from filming government people within, except for 20, you have to stand 25 feet away, which is a horrific distance. You can't tell what's going on. So we can't even monitor people in government power when they've got video cameras watching us everywhere. That's controlled by them. So our freedoms, our First Amendment rights are going away, because I should have the right to leave leaflets. Now people say that is littering, and he's stopping litter. No, it's not, because if people don't want a leaflet on their door, they can tell you, go away, I don't want it. Or they can put a no trespassing sign out of their house, or have somebody else tell you that they don't want their leaflet there. So there are ways, legally, legitimately, that people can stop you from leaving a leaflet. So what they're doing is, a lot of people want a leaflet, and they're preventing them from being able to get a leaflet at their house to give information against the government. They want to stop me from saying stuff about the government. Bill Lee wants to stop me. Bill Haslam wants to stop me from putting out stuff about them. That's why, so they can keep their little Christian nationalist lie going. So that's why he passed the Freedom of Information Act. You know what it is? The Unfreedom of Information Act. Because they use your tax money to mail people stuff that they don't even have to pay for. And they are preventing me from walking up to your door and leaving you information that you want. Because if you don't want it, tell me, or put out a no trespassing sign, or have somebody tell me that you don't want it. Because otherwise, people do want political material against Governor Bill Lee. And we can't afford, we don't have the tax resources that he has. We don't have your money. I wouldn't spend it anyway for their lies. And they are getting the same information out by mailing it to people, and by their mass campaigns where they pay people and they don't care. They'd rather stop the truth. So he did that Unfreedom of Information Act, and it is Orwell Wells doublespeak. It's using political language that's not true. It's called the Freedom Act. It's not a Freedom Act. It stops freedom of speech, stops leafleting, restricts protests, because you can't be 25 feet from a scene of an incident, even news reporters, silences dissent, and they rename oppression freedom. When they rename oppression freedom, be alert, be very alert, and that's what they've done. His conscience is seared. Let's see how many people we got on here. So yeah, we got a few. Thank y'all. Like, share, comment. So his conscience is seared. They believe their own lies. Lying becomes a habit, not guilt. They lied so long they call it leadership. That's what that is. It's Satan's playbook pattern. They are following a lie, following a deceiver. You know the pattern by the author, and he's following Lucifer is what Governor Bill Lee is following. There's a two-tiered justice system, and we'll finish up. And this is the major that he promoted that's lying about Valor, and they're stopping me from advertising. And she has contacts with the media. Look at this. She has contacts with media. She's a major now. And media release, Sergeant Stacy Heatherly. Sergeant Heatherly had contacts to the media, and she still has contacts to the media. So they've got contacts to the media to put out their lies that Governor Bill Lee loves his neighbor more than himself, that Governor Bill Lee fights injustice anywhere he finds it, even though it's in his own administration, that he's been made aware of. You don't have to find it. I said, here it is. And it shows up on death rates on the road. And he stands on his own principles, not principles in the Bible that he campaigned in churches for that serve the public. He don't stand on those principles. The principles he stands on are principles that help and protect him. So let's go look at the view, and we'll continue with the dialogue. Got a few more things to talk about. There's more of us than them, and we can beat them, and we can beat them with the truth, and get them out of office. And we'll talk about the two-tiered justice system. It's justice for them, not for you. Let's look at the view here. So come on in, like, share, comment. Let's try to get 100 likes and help us get the message out. Let's see if we got some comments in here, and we'll finish up the broadcast. Not right now, but let's see here. Neighbors. Leaf. I hate my neighbors. They be loud when it's late. Well, okay, I can understand that. I'm just talking about the basic principle. W4Q. Go, homie. Okay, I'll take that. No, they didn't. Holiday is okay, but Sunday night football till 9 p.m. is cool, but 11 p.m. midnight, even 1 a.m. drunk hollering got me pissed, wanting to knock on their door, but I didn't. Keep it civil. Okay, so this is one man, no jobs demonstration. Gotcha. Real power doesn't even know if they vote. Okay, let's see. Reading some of the comments. Give them an extra hour for me. Make them make for jobs, food, and living. You haven't had a job in the last 40 years, have you? Yeah, I have a job right now. Father of what? Father of lies is what Lucifer is. It got one more rock from a baby who reads what ABCs. Okay. Guidance way to multiply. I can't even get a job. Okay, let's see here. So we're reading comments. So if you got a comment, I'll go all the way to the bottom and read your comments. Wow, we thank you for all the comments. Hold up signs, that's what they really hate. Okay, yeah, I do that. Thank you. I do that too. Because you won't broke betting on Tennessee football. I don't bet on Tennessee football because they got bad propaganda on the sidelines. So that's wicked. This is less. Okay. No one can read. Yeah, it's okay. What's the show called? It's Charles Van Morgan, Unbridled News. We're talking about Governor Bill Lee. Pray for them as well. That's right. Pray for them. Absolutely. 14 million people are unemployed. That's right. I am jobless. Okay. So yeah, we pray for them too. That's absolutely right. Pray for that they'll be exposed for what they've done wrong, because they know what they're doing and they don't care. So let's look at a beautiful view out here. And thank y'all for joining us. Like, share, comment, help me spread the message. The way to combat these people is to spread the message. So here is the beautiful Tennessee River and the courthouse. So yeah, we'll get down here under the bridge and show you the beautiful river, the beautiful scenery. This is my office. They won't let me in a courtroom, but we're out here on the beautiful Tennessee River. This is my courtroom. Speaking the truth to power, where the court rules don't apply, and we're going to be very prejudicial to fight people in government power. Let's look over the bridge, and I try not to drop my phone. There's the river. So let's hope I don't drop my phone. I'm gonna hold it out here. Yeah. So right there, right in the background, right there used to be the Baptist hospital, but they've closed down that hospital. That's one of the many hospitals that they have closed down in order to save money for the billionaires. So like, share, and comment. And the way we can combat these people and get around the Freedom Act that stops us from campaigning is and the 25-foot rule that they've added is to spread these YouTube videos and get the message out about crooked Governor Bill Lee. And also to call your friends. So Governor Bill Lee promised in a church, walked inside a church, look at the screenshot, and it said that don't worry about what we stand against, because he's wanting to get everybody to vote for him. He says, this is what we stand for. This is his words, his measuring stick. He said we stand for loving our neighbor as himself. More than himself, he said. But he's closed down hospitals. More per capita in Tennessee than any other state in the nation. He refused federal assistance for Medicaid that has caused a lot of people to die. People have about a 45-minute drive to the hospital. Older people die on the way to the hospital. The mortality rate is higher. People won't come to Tennessee because they know there's not a lot of hospitals. Medical care is gone. They close down hospitals to save money because the more hospitals are open, more front doors are open to where they got to give life-saving medical care to people that don't have insurance. So the fewer hospitals, the less him and his billionaire buddies have to help fund that with tax money. So he said, love your neighbor as yourself. The Bible is talking about that he holds up. He's in a church. That's his standard. It's talking about not your rich neighbor. They need your love, but they don't need your money. Loving your neighbor as yourself is talking about the helpless people. That's who you need to love. That's who he doesn't love. That's who the Bible's talking about loving, because the principle in the Bible is that people that are the fatherless and the widows and the sick and the afflicted and the stranger, the fatherless and the widow and the stranger are people who have less political clout in the government before judges. So God promises those people, if they're mistreated by the government, mistreated by Bill Lee, that he will respond if they pray, if they cry at all, and he will answer their prayer and give them justice. So if Bill Lee loves his neighbors, the Bible talks about the injustice of people that don't have political clout, not his buddies. So if he reads the Bible that he holds that Bible up, amen, Christian nationalist, then he would see that the people that he needs to show some love to are the fatherless and the widows and the stranger. Then that's what the Bible promises special help. So I would encourage you, if you're a fatherless or widow, or if you're a stranger, to pray. God will hear you, and pray that Bill Lee changes his ways. So he says that he will correct justice wherever he finds it. It's in his own house. He's created it. He knows about it. So he's found it. He just won't correct it. He's not going to. His conscience is seared. He bears false witness. He violates the 10th commandment. The commandment is don't bear false witness, and it's right beside the commandment that is a prohibition on murder. Because if you bear false witness against your neighbor, against a citizen, then it's synonymous with murder, because of the fact that you're killing, it's the 9th commandment, you're killing their reputation. You're destroying them in the standing of the community. You're bearing false witness against him. He knows that his agency, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, has bore false witness against me, and they do it against Tennesseans all the time through their judicial rogue rulings. And he continues to allow false witness to be bared by people, criminal acts. So he violates the 9th commandment against bearing false witness, synonymous with killing somebody. That's what the Christian governor does. Walks right in the church and does the very things, the hypocrisy that he says he stands against, full well knowing. It's not he don't know. I've told him, filed complaints with him, signed my name to him. If I'm committing perjury, committing a crime, giving them false evidence, and charge me with a crime. They won't charge me with a crime because they know it's the truth. They don't want to be brought in front of a jury. They don't want to make the problem worse than what it is. They think you can ignore it and it'll go away. And 1.3 million people are not going away. And the way you can get this message out more to stop their false witness, because their government propaganda, his campaigns is a lie. He's a liar. So the 9th commandment to don't bear false witness is synonymous with murder, because they've tried to kill me, is what they've tried to do. Make it where I can't even get a job, make it where I can't practice law for you, made the roads more dangerous for even themselves. And then saying that he will stand up for his principles even when they're not popular. Now, I stand for my principles even when they're not popular. One of my principles I have is, one of my litmus tests is the belief that life begins at conception and the value of human life. And even if you're pro-abortion, pro-choice, and there should be some reasonable exemptions to that, I believe. I'm a reasonable person. The people that are pro-death, pro-abortion, leave them on the table and all that. But that's one of my litmus tests. Is that stand for my values even when it's not unpopular. So I'm telling you that if you have the choice between a person who is pro-abortion, pro-death on demand, leaving them on the table and letting them die after they survive the abortion, then I would vote for Bill Lee before I would vote for that, because of that. But he's for pro-life. But he's only pro-life, I believe, because that got him elected. I don't know if he truly is. So my values outweigh any animosity or any other issues. That's my main issue. That's standing on my values. So I'm telling you, if it is the case where people are on the ballot and there's nobody like me on the ballot, now if I'm on the ballot, then vote for me. But if there's nobody else on the ballot, I'm telling you, my values say that the top litmus test that I have is vote for the best of the worst. My value is to stand on my Christian values, even when they're not. It's not popular with me. Then I'm still going to vote for somebody that is pro-life, even if it was Bill Lee and he was not. I was on the ballot. He fooled people, but so my values come first. I would vote for a person that's pro-life. So I'm telling you, don't forfeit your values because of other issues. Your core values, and those are some core values that I have, is my pro-life position and my pro-Christian position. I believe that you should love your neighbor more than yourself. I believe that you should pray for your neighbor. I believe that those shouldn't be words to get in politics. And when I was in power, I lived that. I provided for more life-saving than any trooper in the state. I'm loving my neighbor more than myself right now, putting myself at risk to get a message out to protect Tennesseans. We're fighting for health care. We're fighting for your very livelihood. We're fighting for affordability. We're fighting for the right to life. We're fighting for freedom of speech. We're fighting for true Christianity, what a true Christian is. Somebody that will go into government power, that will sacrifice, be sacrificial, that won't get more money going out than they had going in, that won't go into office and lower their own tax burden and then raise yours so that theirs can be lower. That's what these power mongers do. That's the truth of the message that needs to get out. So I'm giving you something for free, and they're taking from you, and they're in government power. And the last, stand on your principles. So that's what I do. I stand on my principles. So we can do something about this. Here's what we can do. Governor Bill Lee we need 1,127,528 votes. About 27% outreach polls. So here's the deal. We need 22.9% of the people eligible to vote. Bottom line, small flips Lee, other voters make a big dent. So we need about 29% of the people eligible to vote is all we need. So all the people that are eligible to vote, if we don't get 77% of them, we can leave 77% of the eligible voters on the table and still win. So we get the message out, and we need to get it out to 100% of people and win by a landslide. But we're talking to 1.3 million people right now, or more, we have in the past 3 months. So if of all the 100% of people that are eligible to vote that didn't vote in the last election, all we need is 23% of people to vote for us, and we win the election. If they get everything stays the same, they get everything that they got in the past, Bill Lee gets the same amount of votes. All we need is to activate 23% of the people and leave 77% on the table, and we win. So we don't even have, it's not even that arduous of a task if we can get the message out. The message is that Bill Lee's lied to you. The next Republican nominee is going to lie in the same vein. Marsha Blackburn went into office with several $100,000. She's coming out with $12 million, running for governor with $12 million. Bill Lee went into office and he's got his money in a private trust fund where he's richer, but we don't know how much richer. He's got it in a blind trust. We know that he lowered his own taxes, and look at the cost of living. So if we contact, and this is what I'm asking you to do, this is a call to action. If we contact 23% of the people of the 77% available, then we can beat him. So we don't even need 100%. So if we contact all of them, we need to contact all of them, and just to activate 23%, we will wipe him and his lies off the table and then get a special prosecutor's office to investigate some of his wrongdoing. And Power to you, the people. Register, persuade, volunteer, vote. Even non-voters and non-eligible allies, show up, speak up, make the difference. We are lawful. We fight corruption by using the law, the vote, and public pressure. So we can make a difference. We can make a difference. So like, share, comment, and call your friends. So here is the baseline target vote. Flashcard, vote target 2022, and this is 2026. Registered non-voters, 2,812,572. So there's 2,800,000, almost 300,000 non-voters, people that are registered but they didn't vote. Over 2,000 people. Eligible but unregistered. If we can get 1,360,000 people registered. The current vote we got was 1,682,000. Now I might not run, I don't know. But whoever we endorse, total outreach pool. So this is how many people are available that we can flip. 4,174,434. That's how many voters are on the table. That's how many voters. We don't need all of them to win, but that's how many are available out there. That's how many either are registered, didn't vote, or not even registered but could get registered. Over 4 million people. That's the pool of eligible voters. Voters needed to beat Bill Lee or the next incumbent if they get about the same number of votes. It's 27% of all those voters. All those people on the table. So we don't need 4 million of them, we need 27% of them. Bottom line, register, persuade about 27% of this pool to surpass Bill Lee's 2022 total. So if we can persuade 27% of this 4 million pool, just 27% of them, just 27% of those, 27% of this 4 million, then we flip the election in our favor. Tennessee registration vote counts, estimated vote. So I prepared it. So if we convince only 27% of those people to vote, then we can flip the election. And that's not even counting if we flip some of Bill Lee's votes, some of the Republican nominees' votes. If we flip some of their votes, then we need even less. That's 2 votes, because we flip his vote that would have voted for him and put some on us. So that's like getting 2 votes. So we can get it down to, if we flip a few of his votes, get it down to about 22% of the people that are registered, that didn't vote, that are not registered but could get registered, and obviously they didn't vote. So we only need about 22% if we can flip a small percentage of what the Republicans are getting. So it's not that difficult of a task numerically. The problem is the Freedom Act is getting the message out. So if you will like, share this message, and we've got 3 million people, and we're climbing every day. We have bad days, good days, people on here, but we're putting the fight out. We're putting the fight on. The fight is on, and I'm pretty good at what I do. So and it's not about me, it's about you. So if I can get enough people convinced to spread the message, spread the YouTube channel, that's what Bill Lee hates. He hates me spreading the message about how he's a liar, how he holds the Bible up and goes against everything he said, his own standard. He advertised in a church. How hypocrisy is that? And then closes down hospitals and lets children die and elderly die, and gives himself a tax break and his buddy a tax break. He violates those 3 things that he promised, that he would love his neighbor more than himself. Which neighbor? His rich neighbor. That he would fight injustice no matter where he found it. He doesn't fight injustice, he promotes injustice. And that he would stand on his values even when they're unpopular. His values that are unpopular is his government that is closing down hospitals, that is taking care of his buddies and not loving all his neighbors. So everyone has power. Everyone has power. So ways non-eligible people can help. These are people that are not even eligible, they're not even the 4 million people. Lawfully and effectively speak out, attend public meetings, city council, school board hearings. So even if you can't vote, even if you're not one of the 4.2 million people, you have power to do this, even if you got a felony. Protest and pressure, peaceful, lawful demonstrations and rallies. Persuade, talk to friends, family, neighbors about registering and voting. Volunteer canvass, phone bank, text bank, hand out flyers. Logistics, drive people to the polls, help with child care, hand out water at events. This is people that can't even vote, not even the 4 million people. Media outreach, share video, call in, talk. Say some of the same lines I'm saying. Radio contact, local press, post on social media. There's the stuff, even people that aren't registered to vote. Watchdogging, observe public meetings, document misconduct. And when you document misconduct, go to my YouTube page down at the bottom, fill out my survey and send me information, tell me what they're doing, and I'll put it out. Fundraising, a resource, collect donations, buy materials, pay for ad space or signs. Takeaway, not eligible to vote, you can still create the momentum that gets people to the to the polls. Even if you're not registered, even if you're not part of the 4 million people, you can still make a difference. These are people that are not even part of the 4 million people. You can make more difference than somebody that goes and votes by convincing 3 other people, even though you can't vote, to go vote for the truth. And by joining the social movement. So like, share, comment, and if you like, it spreads this message. It gets this message out. It bypasses their Road Freedom Information Act that's designed to keep information out about Governor Bill Lee. So collective or joint action. Definition, people together toward a common goal using combined energy to create change. Our movement example, gathering Tennessee citizens and supporters worldwide to vote out corrupt officials. Using freedom of speech to expose wrongdoing and pressure those in power. That's what we're trying to do, pressure those in power. Supporting a candidate who stands with us. I may run for governor in 2026, but we can endorse allies now. Mobilizing numbers. Every registered voter who didn't vote in 2022 and eligible non-registered voters as part of the potential movement. And even people who can't vote, you can still matter too. Online attending public hearings, peaceful protest, media outreach. Takeaway, together we are strong than any singing politician or crooked official. Every person counts, speaking, showing up, or voting. And I prepared that. So even if you can't vote, you can make a difference. And this is what we're trying to do, create a social movement. A social movement is conscious, organized effort by ordinary people to change or resist something big in society using tools outside the official system. Key points. Movement happens when people feel the system isn't living up to their values. People see injustice, corruption, or lies, and they band together. Movements use non-institutional means. So I've just pointed out to you some of the lies in a church, the hypocrisy that Bill Lee uses that we need to fight against, that's causing disruption in society. Change-oriented goals. Remove corrupt in government power. Arrange systems in your favor. Monthly meetings, listen and explain. So this is the change-oriented goals that we have. And this is collective or joint action. Knoxville, Tennessee, U.S. worldwide. Get the message out. So this is where you can help get the message out on YouTube. Power to You, the People movement. Vote. Speak up, show up. Listen to our YouTube broadcast. Together we can make a difference for the world, and we can. All for a stupid religion. It's not a stupid religion. So I am one man on a bridge with a phone, and I have shown more truth than the entire Tennessee legal system. They can't beat truth, they can't beat evidence, and they sure can't beat persistence. So like, share, comment. They sure can't beat truth. So I'm one man on a bridge with a phone, and I have shown more truth than Governor Bill Lee, and they can't beat truth. They can't beat my evidence, and they can't beat persistence. And that's what we're fighting, and that's what evidently catches on. So people join movements when they feel a part of something. Hashtag Charles Van Morgan, power to you the people. You are the judge. Here are the facts. That's what I do. Unruly truth telling. And that's what we will continue to do. They fear exposure, not me. Repetition, calling out power directly. That's what we're doing. Not with hate, with facts. When you calmly expose liars, corruption freaks out, and they start passing Freedom Acts that limit that tactic. So power to you, the people, and share this message, and help us get the message out. Spread the channel. Thank you all for listening, and God bless you all. Until next time, this is Charles Van Morgan. God loves you, and I do too.